So what's cool about dahlias is that when you buy the tubers in the spring, they're a little bit of an investment, but what you get is a clump of tubers, and a little bit smaller than this, and then you plant those. You get these beautiful flowers, and then in the fall, after the frost, you dig up your tubers. You cut off the plants that have died because of the frost, and then you dig it up, and your tubers have multiplied. So now, when you started with one clump of tubers, you can divide these, store them over the winter, plant them again in the spring, and all of a sudden, you've got, 10 dahlia plants that you can plant.
The gift that keeps on giving. So just briefly, you can see on this one, these were sort of part of the original tuber bundle that was planted, and they're a little darker in color, and they're just kind of floppy, like they used all their energy for this season. But all of these are new. Each of these tubers is a viable plant, but what we recommend for starters is just cutting the clump in half. Mm-hmm. So we're going to demo that with our beloved secateurs, which are good and sharp. You can also use sort of a larger, like pruning shears, or whatever else you can kind of get your hands on. But that's right. You want to just kind of cut through the root and try to just get right through so you have half and half. How's it going over there? Okay, just like that. No problem, no problem. Doing great. Okay, should we skip that part? So
it smells earthy. So you basically, for your first cut, you don't need to worry too much about like the eyes or anything like that. You just want to go sort of straight down the middle to give yourself a sort of cleaner working slate.
Yeah, we're gonna just try and get this guy
And
out.
every tuber doesn't need to be saved.
True. Okay.
What you're gonna do is taking the main clump, you're just gonna cut it down the middle, so then you've got two halves. And you're gonna lose some friends, and that's okay.
But you lose friends along the way. It happens.
You still love them. And now you've got a bunch of viable tubers here. So you can either just store these guys and plant out 2 plants. You've doubled your investment right there. Or you can go further and cut into quarters from there. So then you're going to take each one of these guys and cut it down in half in the middle. The thing you're looking for, the important thing about tubers, is that every tuber needs to be connected to the stem, needs to have a little stem on it. So like this is, good job.
Thank you.
This is perfect. So some of them you can already see what's called the growing eyes, but in the fall, it can be really hard to see those growing eyes, but when you get them out in the spring, you'll see those.
They will have sprouted up a little bit.
Yeah, they'll already have like started to go. So you can kind of like play the game of finding the eyes, but or just, it's got a stem, it's a tuber. You don't want this part, which is called the neck. If that breaks, they're toast.
Good. That's right. Mm-hmm. So couple of ways to do it. I mean, you can literally just plant the whole clump and call it good and let it multiply as it will. You can half it and just that's really easy because you have stem for everything. Or you can quarter, or you can get into each individual tuber, and you just kind of experiment and see what works for you. But as Julie said, from one tuber come many, so it can put you on a real dahlia road.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing to watch for in your dahlia clumps is these are called the mother tubers. So they're kind of dark and sad looking, and that's because these were the tubers that were planted in the spring. So now they've done their work and they are ready to be retired. So you can just clip those off, and you can try to plant them if you want to, but really they're not going to be your most viable tubers. So typically you just clip those off, say goodbye to them, and then work with all these new fresh tubers that are going to be ready to grow in the spring.
Before, after. Cut. Okay.
It's complicated.